This is Audible.
The Downloaded 2, Ghosts in the Machine, Robert J. Sawyer, an Audible original. Ghosts in the Machine, term used by philosophers for the concept of the mind existing separately from the body. Chapter 1, Roscoe Cadulian. 7 years had passed since I'd found the child's corpse, but I still had nightmares about it. Shortly after we'd all downloaded out of our individual virtual silos, we'd split into teams and searched inside the Quantum Cryonics Institute for items that might increase our chances of survival. Back then, the astronauts were still suspicious of us ex-cons, so I was accompanied by their captain, Letitia Garvey. I'm an old movie buff. Well, I guess they're all old movies now, and Letitia reminded me of Whitney Houston, the singer who starred in The Bodyguard. I wish I could say I looked like her leading man Kevin Costner, but I'm more of what you get if you stuck Peter Lorre's head on a linebacker's body. In the Institute's security office, we found a cabinet sealed with a padlock. Letitia held up a finger, the just a minute one, not the up yours one, and scooted out the door. When she returned, she was brandishing a crowbar. "Where did you get that?" I asked. "It's the one that cracked open Mikhail's skull," she replied. Her crew member, Mikhail Sidorov, hadn't yet been able to download because ages ago someone, back then, we didn't yet know who, had smashed open his cryo coffin and staved in his skull. Letitia used the crowbar to pop off the bracket holding the padlock. Inside was a box of ammunition and a pistol, but God only knew if it would work after all these centuries. Funny thing, I'm a convicted murderer, but I hate guns. Letitia, though, had no compunctions about picking a damn thing up. "In honor of poor Mikhail," she announced. "Henceforth, this shall be known as Chekhov's gun." I gave her a small smile, and we headed down the corridor to continue searching. We knew there were 2 cryo chambers at the Institute. One had housed the bodies of me and my fellow prisoners, and the other had held Letitia and her crew. But she and I were surprised, after we managed to force open a heavy door, to be confronted by a 3rd cryo chamber. It looked like we were the only people to have entered it since the 21st century. I found the light switch. The Institute has solar panels on its roof, but only a few of the fluorescent tubes sputtered to life, 2 of them blinking wildly. Cobwebs were everywhere, and dust lay thick on the half-dozen cryo beds. Jordan Peele couldn't have done a better job staging a spooky scene. Letitia began rummaging through the cupboards, and I went over to the coffins. The first 5 were open, their curved covers retracted into the sides of the units, revealing the emptiness within. But the sixth was closed, or well, mostly closed. There was an inch-wide gap where the 2 covers were supposed to join up, as if over the centuries a seal had failed and they'd slipped back slightly. In the flickering light, I could make out something inside. I called Letitia over. We yanked the covers down, and my heart jumped. Empty eye sockets stared up at us from the desecrated body of a child. What little skin remained was shriveled and gray, the longish, dark hair, mostly still attached to the skull. Made me think this might have been a girl. "We'll have to give her a proper burial," I said. Letitia glared at me like I was an idiot. "We can't bury every damn skeleton we find. There are thousands of them in the ruins of Waterloo." "Oh, for Christ's sake," I snapped. "This was somebody's daughter." She scowled, looking like she was going to object some more, maybe pointing out that all the corpses we'd stumbled upon outside had been someone's son or daughter. But then her face softened. "Roscoe, did you have a little girl of your own?" And that did it. Tears filled my eyes. "Annabelle," I said softly. "I'm so sorry," Letitia said, looking at me now with compassionate eyes. But then, uncomfortable with the moment, she tipped her head down, peering again at the tiny corpse. "This place didn't take commercial clients," she said, sounding baffled. "Why on earth would they freeze a child?" I'd had no idea then, and here now, 7 years later, it's still a mystery. Almost as much as how a convict like me ended up being the mayor of